You have no power over me. How hostile questioning turns explanation into submission, and how counterfeit authority survives by persuading you to recognize its jurisdiction. The message arrived at 4:47 our Thursday afternoon. Can you explain why you handled the request this way? Daniel stared at the screen. The office had begun its evening retreat. Chairs rolled back, desk lamps went dark. Somewhere beyond the gray partition, a man was discussing dinner plans with his wife. Daniel had plans too. His coat hung beside the door, and a grocery list waited in his pocket. Then came the question. It appeared courteous. No accusation, no raised voice, no copied executive. A single sentence with tidy punctuation and the managerial perfume of reasonable concern. Daniel knew there had been a problem. A request had arrived without the information required to complete it. The deadline had remained fixed. Operations had failed to answer. He had followed the contingency procedure, documented the missing material, and notified the appropriate office. He had done what the written process told him to do. So he began explaining. He described the deadline. He identified the missing information. He named the department he had contacted and the time he had contacted it. He quoted the procedure. He explained why waiting would have caused a second failure and why the contingency route had seemed proper. 3 careful paragraphs went out at 4:56. Daniel leaned back. Matter resolved. The reply arrived at 5 o'clock. Why didn't you raise these concerns sooner? The original decision had vanished. Communication was now on trial. Daniel answered again. He attached the message he had sent to operations at 2:15. He explained that the problem had become clear only after the final data arrived incomplete. He described the steps he had taken before using the contingency procedure. At 5:08, another reply appeared. Do you normally wait until the last minute to communicate risks? The trial had moved again. First the decision, then the timing, now his habits. Daniel felt heat rising beneath his collar. He began another answer, one intended to demonstrate that he was responsible, conscientious, cooperative, and very far from the sort of man who would wait until the last minute. He deleted a sentence, rewrote it, added context. The office had emptied. The grocery store would soon become crowded. His dinner plans were shrinking beneath the cursor. At 5:21, the question concerned his judgment. At 5:34, it concerned his attitude. By 6, Daniel was defending his character before a tribunal that had never announced its charges. That is the little trick. An accusation has edges. It names an offense. It risks being disproved. A question can move like smoke. It enters through any opening, darkens the room, and leaves the questioner free to insist that he never accused anyone of anything. He was merely asking. Daniel thought he was supplying information. In truth, he was accepting jurisdiction. Each answer granted the questioner another privilege. The privilege to choose the subject. The privilege to define what required defense. The privilege to reject the answer without stating why. The privilege to introduce a new charge disguised as a request for clarification. The questioner never had to prove misconduct. Daniel had to prove innocence, then prove the proper spirit of his innocence, then prove that his effort to prove it was not defensive. A fine machine. It runs on the accused man's conscience. This machine appears in offices, families, churches, friendships, online mobs, and administrative hearings. Its operators may possess real authority, counterfeit authority, or no authority at all. The machinery works whenever the subject believes that a question creates an obligation to answer. That belief is the first gate. Some questions seek information. They become narrower as facts arrive. The questioner acknowledges what has been established, identifies the remaining uncertainty, and moves toward a decision. Other questions seek submission. They expand as facts arrive. Every detail becomes another handle. Every explanation opens another chamber. The exchange has no stated destination because arrival would end the questioner's control. A sincere inquiry wants the missing piece. A hostile inquiry wants you to remain unfinished. The hungry question does not require a wicked mastermind. A frightened supervisor may begin searching for facts and discover halfway through the exchange that the facts point upward. A committee may ask for an account, then realize that accepting the account would require admitting that its own procedure failed. A friend may begin with hurt feelings and find that your guilt offers more comfort than your explanation. The questioning changes because the incentive changes. Truth becomes expensive. Blame is cheaper. Daniel did not know any of this at 447. He knew only that a person above him had asked a question and that good employees answer questions. He mistook conscientiousness for unlimited disclosure. The better he tried to be, the more material he supplied. Every explanation is a key. Give one to a trusted man, and he may enter the room to help repair what went wrong. Give the same key to a hostile man, and he begins testing doors. Soon you're explaining why the silverware drawer was unlocked. The lesson arrives late for conscientious people, because conscientious people believe clarity produces fairness. They assume that misunderstanding is a shortage of information. If they can provide enough dates, motives, qualifications, and context, the other person will eventually see the whole picture. That assumption is fatal when misunderstanding pays. A person may gain status by condemning you. He may protect himself by keeping the accusation alive. He may preserve group loyalty by turning you into a warning. He may enjoy the private majesty of making another adult beg for a favorable interpretation. No explanation can cure a misunderstanding that feeds its owner. In the film Labyrinth, Sarah spends the story trapped inside a kingdom built by Jareth, a king who controls routes, clocks, doors, bargains, and appearances. His power feels absolute because the whole structure speaks in his voice. The paths move, the rules change, time bends. Every attempt to escape seems to confirm that escape belongs to him. At the end, Sarah remembers the words that break the arrangement. You have no power over me. The sentence works because Jareth's deepest power was never merely physical. It was jurisdiction accepted through confusion, fear, and forgotten terms. So it is with the hostile question. The questioner creates a little labyrinth. He changes the route each time you approach the exit. The first question concerns what happened. The next concerns why you allowed it to happen. Then why you failed to prevent it. Then why your answer sounds defensive. Then why a cooperative person would object to answering. Each turn appears connected to the last, though the destination keeps moving. The Minotaur has learned email etiquette. The ordinary man enters this maze because he believes there must be a perfect answer somewhere inside it. He keeps walking. He tries another corridor, another clarification, another apology, carefully limited to tone. He never notices that the maze is being built from his replies. The false court operates the same way. It has no charter, no rules of evidence, no defined charge, and no remedy. It offers one procedural guarantee. The hearing will continue for as long as the defendant keeps speaking. A proper court must state its authority. It must identify the matter. It must distinguish evidence from interpretation. It must eventually reach a judgment. The invisible court does none of these things. Its majesty rests upon participation. And the longer Daniel explained himself beneath the fluorescent lights, the more real that court became, until he could no longer see where his employer's authority ended and another man's appetite began. Now let us leave the labyrinth and examine the wiring. Hostile questioning works through 5 practical transfers of power. The first is agenda control. The person asking the questions decides what will be discussed. That sounds harmless. Every conversation needs a subject. The danger begins when the subject can change without acknowledgement. Daniel was asked why he handled a request in a particular way. He answered. The next question concerned timing, then communication, then habits, then judgment. Each subject was related, yet each represented a new claim. If Daniel followed every turn without naming it, he allowed the questioner to widen the proceeding at will. A proper inquiry narrows. An expanding prosecution gathers new territory whenever the old territory fails to produce a confession. The second transfer is premise control. Why were you so dismissive? Why do you refuse to take responsibility? Why are you threatened by criticism? Each question contains a verdict tucked inside the grammar. The respondent is invited to begin his answer after guilt has already been established. If Daniel says, "I was not trying to be dismissive," he has accepted dismissiveness as the central fact and reduced the dispute to intention. If he says, "I do take responsibility," he accepts that his willingness to do so is properly on trial. The loaded premise is a tiny contract. The first words of the answer may serve as the signature. This is why certain accusations seem to prove themselves. A denial is called defensiveness. Silence is called guilt. Anger is called instability. Calmness is called coldness. The accused man is placed inside a room where every door opens back into the room. The third transfer is evidentiary burden. In a fair process, the person making a claim must identify the act and produce grounds for the claim. In a hostile exchange, the burden reverses. Daniel must prove that he was responsible, communicative, diligent, and properly motivated. Proving a negative is costly. Character cannot be compressed into an attachment. Motives do not leave clean audit logs. The more Daniel tries to demonstrate his goodness, the more episodes of his life become available for inspection. The accusation can remain vague because vagueness is cheap. The defense must become detailed because detail feels persuasive. This creates an extraction process. The questioner spends one sentence. Daniel spends 3 paragraphs, 4 attachments, an evening, and a portion of his piece. The exchange resembles a toll road where the booth moves 10 yards backward after every payment. The fourth transfer is interpretive control. Facts do not arrive wearing their own meaning. Somebody frames them. Daniel contacted operations at 2:15. That is a fact. One interpretation says he recognized a missing input and followed the escalation process. Another says he waited too long. Another says he was attempting to shift blame. Another says his reliance on procedure shows poor initiative. A hostile questioner often moves between fact and interpretation without marking the border. Daniel responds to an interpretation as though it were an established event. He begins explaining motives that have never been demonstrated. This is where administrative language performs its finest tricks. Concerns were raised. Your approach created confusion. There are questions about your judgment. We need to discuss your willingness to cooperate. Who raised the concerns? Which act created confusion? What judgment is disputed? Which request went unanswered? The passive voice enters wearing white gloves. It deposits the accusation and refuses to leave fingerprints. The fifth transfer is closure control. A fair inquiry can end. A hostile one ends only when the questioner grows bored, obtains submission, or encounters a boundary. If no condition of satisfaction has been stated, the respondent cannot know when he has answered enough. This uncertainty keeps him producing material. Perhaps one more explanation will settle it. Perhaps one more concession will demonstrate good faith. The questioner becomes the sole judge of completion. Now follow the incentive. A supervisor has received notice that a request failed. If the failure came from a broken process, the process may require repair. Repair requires time, money, and an admission that the existing design was inadequate. If the failure came from Daniel's judgment, the process remains innocent. The supervisor may never consciously decide to frame Daniel. He may simply experience every fact pointing toward the process as unconvincing, while every fact pointing toward Daniel feels important. Self-protection can masquerade as discernment with astonishing grace. Human resources may join the exchange. Its stated purpose is to gather facts and protect the organization. Protecting the organization means reducing liability. Reducing liability may require a written record showing that management identified a concern, addressed the employee, and issued guidance. Daniel's 3-paragraph explanation becomes raw material. A sentence expressing uncertainty may become an admission. A sentence explaining context may be described as blame shifting. A frustrated phrase may become a concern about professionalism. His attempt to be candid can supply the very record later used to classify him as risky. Nobody needs to meet in a dark room. The supervisor wants insulation. Human resources wants a clean file. Legal counsel wants controlled exposure. Senior management wants the matter closed without implicating policy. Each person responds to his own incentive. The result can resemble a conspiracy because incentives often produce coordinated cruelty without requiring coordination. The machine grows colder as responsibility becomes more distributed. This pattern extends beyond employment. An online crowd asks a public figure to explain a remark. He publishes a long statement. The crowd extracts the least graceful sentence and circulates it without context. He clarifies. The clarification becomes evidence that he is hiding something. He apologizes for his tone. The apology is treated as confirmation of the original charge. The crowd pays no price for error. Its members risk no money, office, friendship, or reputation if the accusation proves false. They possess appetite without responsibility. A family member may use the same structure in private. He asks why you made a decision. You explain. He rejects the reason and asks what kind of person would think that way. You defend your character. He invokes an old grievance. Soon, the conversation concerns your entire nature, while his own conduct remains outside the hearing. A church committee can do it. A professional association can do it. A bureaucratic office can do it with a form whose choices allow every answer except the true one. The machinery changes costumes. The principle remains. Who controls the question controls the root. Who controls the premise controls the available answers. Who controls the standard controls whether an answer can ever be sufficient. Who controls the record controls what happened after memory becomes politically inconvenient. The answer is not permanent silence. Silence can protect guilt as easily as innocence. A man who neglected a duty cannot become honorable by calling accountability an interrogation. Real authority exists. An employer has a proper claim to know how company property was handled, whether a procedure was followed, and why an agreed deadline was missed. A wife deserves an account of money missing from a shared account. A business partner deserves to know whether a promise was kept. A priest may ask about matters within pastoral care. Courts, regulators, and contractual parties possess defined claims. Personal sovereignty does not grant exemption from judgment. It identifies the proper court. Standing begins with relationship and responsibility. Does the questioner carry responsibility for the matter? Does he bear a cost if you lie, conceal, or choose badly? Does law, contract, kinship, friendship, church discipline, or a promise give him a rightful claim? A stranger's curiosity creates no duty. Anger does not appoint him. A large following does not appoint him. A folder of screenshots may make him feel judicial, though a cardboard gavel remains cardboard. When standing exists, the next question is scope. Your employer may deserve the facts concerning a work decision. That does not grant unlimited access to your childhood, private convictions, family history, or inner emotional weather. Your friend may deserve an explanation for a broken promise. That does not give him authority to conduct a census of every past failure. Defined authority is limited authority. Counterfeit authority hates boundaries because boundaries require it to state what it is. This is where Jareth's words return with a different force. Sarah says, "You have no power over me." Yet Jareth plainly possesses power. He commands the maze. He commands the creatures. He has altered time and stolen her brother. Her sentence does not deny his capacity. It denies his rightful claim. That distinction matters. A hostile manager may affect your employment. An online crowd may injure your reputation. A family member may disrupt the peace of your home. Counterfeit authority can carry real weapons. The sentence is not a claim that consequences are impossible. It is a refusal to let capacity become legitimacy. A robber with a knife has leverage. He does not have moral jurisdiction. A bureaucracy may delay an application. It does not acquire ownership of your conscience. A supervisor may demand a factual account. He does not gain the right to define your motives without evidence. You have no power over me means you will not decide what I confess. You will not convert your interpretation into my premise. You will not keep me inside a proceeding whose charge, standard, and remedy remain hidden. The maze may still stand. You have stopped mistaking it for the world. The practical method begins at the first question. Do not answer at the speed of accusation. Pressure favors the questioner because speed prevents you from separating the issue from the atmosphere. A message at 4:47 does not become wiser because it arrived near the end of the day. Urgency is sometimes a deadline. Sometimes it is theatrical lighting. Pause. Read the precise words. Remove the tone you heard in your head. Identify the concrete request. Daniel's first message asked why he handled a request in a particular way. The smallest complete answer might have been, "The required information was unavailable before the deadline, so I followed the contingency procedure in Section 4. I notified operations at 2:15 p.m. Their acknowledgement is attached. Please let me know if you are directing a different procedure for future requests." That answer establishes 4 points. The necessary information was missing. A written procedure governed the decision. Daniel followed it. Any disagreement should produce a concrete future instruction. It does not explain Daniel's personality. It does not speculate about operations. It does not plead for recognition of his good intentions. It does not offer 3 paragraphs from which a hostile reader may harvest fragments. A clean sentence gives the knife less meat. When the second question changes the issue, name the change. That is a separate question. My response above addresses the procedure used. If you are asking about notification timing, please identify the required notification point. This forces the questioner to distinguish one claim from another. It prevents related subjects from melting into a general cloud of suspicion. When the question contains a loaded premise, reject the description and request an observable fact. If asked, "Why were you dismissive?" answer, "I disagree with that description. Which statement or action are you asking me to address?" If asked, "Why are you refusing to cooperate?" answer, "Please identify the request that remains unanswered." If asked, "Why won't you take responsibility?" answer, "What specific duty do you believe I failed to perform?" These responses may feel cold. They leave emotional claims floating without the warm blanket of an apology. That discomfort is useful. You are accustomed to treating discomfort as proof that you have done something wrong. Hostile people count on that reflex. Courtesy does not require self-indictment. When the questioner ignores a clear answer, ask what would resolve the matter. I have provided the timeline and the applicable procedure. What further fact is required to reach a decision? Or, what action are you directing for future cases? Remedy creates responsibility. Accusation is cheap because it can remain atmospheric. A requested remedy must become specific enough to judge. If the questioner refuses to define resolution, you have learned something important. The exchange may be serving a purpose other than correction. When money, employment, access, reputation, or legal exposure is involved, preserve the record. Keep the original message. Save the relevant procedure, contract, instruction, and acknowledgement. Record dates while memory is fresh. Separate what you observed from what you inferred. Write. Operations did not provide the required field by 2 o'clock. Do not write. Operations deliberately sabotaged the request. The first statement may be documented. The second assigns a motive you may never prove. Write for the unknown reader who will encounter the message 6 months later with no knowledge of the personalities involved. That reader may be a manager, attorney, regulator, priest, business partner, or judge. He will not hear your tone. He will see dates, claims, attachments, and phrasing. Do not write while angry enough to enjoy the sentence. The line that gives you the greatest pleasure is often the line another person will underline. Remove sarcasm, amateur diagnosis, theatrical threats, and claims you cannot support. A written record is meant to carry weight after emotion has left the room. Documentation must remain lawful. Recording laws vary. Workplace rules may govern the storage of company material. Confidential records do not become personal property because you fear a dispute. A careless attempt to preserve evidence may create a new offense. Save what you may lawfully retain. Know where it is. Keep important employment agreements, performance reviews, certifications, receipts, policies, project records, and written instructions in an orderly system. A shoebox full of screenshots is a headache wearing casual clothes. When formal authority becomes involved, cooperate without improvising. I will respond after reviewing the relevant documents. I would like the concerns stated in writing. Please identify the policy you believe applies. I want to provide an accurate account, so I will follow up tomorrow. If the matter may carry legal consequences, speak with qualified counsel before offering a sprawling narrative. The instinct to explain everything immediately can injure an innocent person. Memory is imperfect. Informal language is elastic. A hurried sentence may be made to carry a burden it was never built to hold. When you have answered the defined matter, close the loop. I have provided my account and the supporting records. I have nothing further to add unless a new factual question arises. Do not announce a boundary and then continue arguing beneath it. A fence with a revolving door is outdoor furniture. When a false interpretation threatens something material, correct it once in the proper place. Provide evidence. Address the person with authority to decide the matter. Avoid performing your defense for the crowd surrounding the dispute. When the distortion carries no material cost, consider leaving it unanswered. This is difficult. A conscientious man aches to be understood. He believes the perfect paragraph will force fairness into being. He rewrites his motives for people who are rewarded for misreading them. Some people will misunderstand you because the misunderstanding gives them pleasure, status, protection, or belonging. Their interpretation is rented property. Your explanation threatens the lease. Let small distortions die without ceremony. Silence will not make everyone admire you. It can keep their opinion from governing your conduct. The method becomes stronger when refusal is affordable. If one employer controls your income, health coverage, professional identity, social circle, and future references, a boundary can cost dearly. If online approval supplies your sense of worth, every accusation feels like exile. Reduce those dependencies before the 447 message arrives. Build competence that travels. Save money. Maintain relationships outside one workplace. Root yourself in family, parish, neighbors, and trusted men who know your character through years of conduct. Keep your agreements and records in order. Own useful tools and property where you can. A man with alternatives can ask for the charge to be stated plainly. A man without alternatives may still need courage. Yet courage breathes better when the rent is covered. Practice the narrow answer during small disputes. Composure is learned when the stakes are low. Nobody wants his first rehearsal to occur while human resources is arranging the chairs. Ask yourself 3 questions as the exchange develops. Has the questioner acknowledged any clear answer? Has the disagreement become narrower? Has he stated what outcome would satisfy him? If all 3 answers remain no, you are probably facing an expanding prosecution. Stop supplying corridors. Yet there is a danger here, one more dangerous than the original interrogation. Once you learn the grammar of hostile questions, you may begin seeing counterfeit courts everywhere. A wife asks about missing money, and you demand that she establish standing. An employer asks about unfinished work, and you accuse him of loaded framing. A friend describes an injury, and you retreat behind procedural language. The guilty man can learn the narrow answer too. He can use precision to avoid truth. He can demand perfect wording from the person he harmed. He can exploit every uncertainty while ignoring the plain moral fact. He can turn documentation into fog and boundaries into battlements. He can become very difficult to convict, then slowly, very difficult to love. The field manual works because systems possess grammar. Once you see the grammar, you can resist the machine. You can also speak in its voice. You can root every human appeal into a defined channel, answer pain with policy, and make mercy submit the proper form. You can learn to control the question so thoroughly that nobody near you is permitted to ask one. That is the final chamber of the labyrinth. The machine is cold because it treats every disclosure as material and every uncertainty as leverage. Do not become cold in order to defeat it. A man who has done wrong owes an account. If he lied to his wife, neglected his child, cheated his business partner, ignored a lawful instruction, or injured a friend, brevity may become cowardice. I have nothing further to add, cannot pay a debt of honor. Proper judgment deserves truth. When your conduct caused harm, state the fault without hiding inside abstraction. Repair what can be repaired. Make restitution. Accept rightful consequences. Give the person who bears the wound enough information to understand what happened. Your wife is not a hostile interrogator because she asks where the money went. Your employer is not a tyrant because he asks whether agreed work was completed. Your priest is not operating a surveillance state because he refuses to rename your favorite sin. Discernment must cut in both directions. Ask whether the person bears responsibility for the matter. Ask whether your conduct caused harm. Ask whether the requested information is needed to repair that harm. Ask whether silence would violate law, contract, kinship, friendship, or a promise made before God. If the answer is yes, give a proper account. The villain understands power with unusual clarity. That is why the villain can teach. Jareth knows that control rests upon bargains, symbols, fear, appetite, and forgotten words. His corruption begins when he assumes that clear sight gives him moral permission. It does not. You may learn which questions make people defensive. Do not use them to make your wife smaller. You may learn how silence creates pressure. Do not use it to starve a friend of peace. You may learn to document every exchange. Do not turn your home into an evidence locker. You may learn that most people fear disapproval. Do not make affection conditional upon obedience. Treat the exploit as medicine. Use it against the disease. Put it away when the fever breaks. The goal is a life governed by rightful obligation. You answer fully where duty requires it. You refuse where curiosity wears a stolen badge. You admit guilt where guilt exists. You decline confessions written by somebody else. That balance requires more character than either submission or permanent suspicion. The submissive man explains everything because he cannot endure disapproval. The predatory man explains nothing because he recognizes no authority above his appetite. The free man knows whom he owes. Daniel sat beneath the fluorescent lights with his coat still hanging beside the door. His mistake had been modest. He believed another paragraph would purchase a fair interpretation. It never would. The next time the message arrives at 4:47, he will read it once. He will review the record. He will check the governing procedure. He will answer the matter that was actually raised. The required information was unavailable before the deadline, so I followed the contingency procedure in Section 4. I notified operations at 2:15 p.m. Their acknowledgement is attached. Please let me know if you are directing a different procedure for future requests. Then he will close the laptop. The question may continue. The accusation may change clothes. The little court may gather beneath its flickering lights and wait for him to return. It may possess leverage. It may create inconvenience. It may even cause harm. Still, its jurisdiction has limits. You have no power over me is not a boast that no one can touch you. It is the sober recognition that another person's appetite does not own your conscience. The maze survives by persuading you that every corridor deserves another explanation. Sometimes the door appears when you stop walking. This is the phantom of the toll booth. Good luck navigating the system.